for my Spanish-speaking friends. Hello, everybody. John Boyer here for World Regional Geography Online Office Hour. And as always, if there's anyone in the chat room right now, here on the Platte Avenger Twitch channel, can somebody give me a shout out that you can both hear me and see me? And what color puffy am I wearing tonight? It actually looks like my arms are. I don't have arms because they blend in with the background. I have arms. They're just not very big. Is Blue Subaru is the first one in the chat room tonight with a big howdy. And Mr. Eek Tacos, howdy, howdy. Wow, howdy is the word of the night. And Blue Subaru can see and hear my orange vest. JK Wait up in the hizzle saying hello. Welcome back, JK. First time chatter from Pink Bonnet Joe. Pink Bonnet Joe says howdy orange. Wow, everybody's into howdy tonight. MacMan 123456789 says hello. Welcome back, MacMan. First time chatter from Walker 4C. Walker 4C. I like that. Walker for the ocean? I like that screen name, Walker. And thank you for your first time chatter. Thank you for your first time chatter, Pink Bonnet. Is Blue Super says, I like howdy thing. I'm starting. Yes, everybody's into the howdies. Think we should start the streams by saying howdy. Let's do it. There we go. Livia's got a howdy. Plaid Katie's got a howdy. Adita has a howdy. Oh, yeah, we got a trend going. Mary Handy says, hello, not howdy. Bucking the trend. But I like all greetings of all types from all great folks like you. I assume most of you are students. And you're great students here in World Regional Geography. That's right, folks. If you're a first-time tuner-inner to our Platte Avenger Twitch channel, or if you're just randomly swimming around on Twitch and have come across this goofball in orange, my name is John Boyer, and I am the professor of note for the class Geog 1014 World Regional Geography, a.k.a. World Regions, here at Virginia Tech, home of the Fighting Hokies. And speaking of Fighting Hokies, all right, did you go to the game on Saturday? What did we think about that? Thank goodness we got at least one more win this season from our world-class Fighting Hokies here in Blacksburg, Virginia. Did everybody have a good time this weekend? Did you attend the football festivities? It is always a surprising mark of the passion that the Hokie Nation has here in Blacksburg. And it's always surprising to me because we've not been doing well this season. What did we lose 3 in a row? And the stadium was still completely packed on Saturday night. And a good time, I think, was had by all. Although way too many turnovers. Come on, let's be honest. So, enough about football because I now have reached my maximum knowledge potential of football. I have nothing else to say besides I had a really good time. Don't remember leaving the stadium. So, did you all have a good time? And more importantly, what would you like to talk about today? What we do here in the online office hour is answer any questions you have about things going on in the course. Uh-oh, I already got a heart. Wolfman23 is now following. Thank you, Wolfman. Thank you for the little heart that just popped up. I love those. I heart you back, Wolfman. Good screen name, too, by the way. We chat about what's going on in the course. If you have any questions about any of the content, I don't even know what videos you're on this week. I want to say it's some more international intrigue with international organizations. What was the film this week? Has anybody already watched the film? Did you enjoy the film? I believe it is... What is the film? Is it the one with the Mexican cartel gangs? Which? It is Sin Nombre. Did you enjoy Sin Nombre? First time chatter from Spatial Sun. Good screen name. Spatial Sun says Sin Nombre, and it was great. Thank you for the first time chatter, Sin Nombre. And I'm sorry, Spatial Sun. And I'm really glad you enjoyed it. It is a challenging film. Hopefully you read the warnings that I pop up about films like that have some fairly realistic, gritty violence. We don't want people getting too shocked, too spooked, too scared, too triggered in today's world. So I try to give folks a little heads up. However, even though that is a fairly violent film, and violent because of its gritty realism, much like City of God. Did we already talk about that kid getting shot in the foot in City of God? Holy crap, I think they really shot that kid. And I really think some people took some beatings in this Sin Nombre film, too. That's some damn good acting. So, hopefully you enjoyed it, despite its intensity and its not particularly happy ending. But most folks end up really liking that film. It makes the U.S.-Mexican border division that we have in our country much more visceral, much more real, and perhaps maybe got you to think about that very political football in different ways, which is why I show you these films. To get you to think of things around the world in different ways, perhaps new ways for parts of the world you've never seen or heard or visited yet. So, Pink Bonnet just finished Sin Nombre. Is it Bonnet or Bonnet? I guess it's Bonnet. And Pink Bonnet, I'm assuming that you have a pink hat on, who also just finished Sin Nombre. Aditi says, Sin Nombre, thank you. Only here for the podcast. Welcome back. Only here says, how impactful to NATO is the pro-Russia win in Slovakia likely to be? That is a good question. Only here for the podcast. I also had a comment and a link up here from JK, who says, can you touch on what's going on with Kosovo and Serbia? And they've given me a link. Let me see if I click that link, will it actually pop up in the current window I have open? It does. I will get to both of these starting right now, and you can see what I can see. Is it this one? There you go. This is sent to us by JK Wyatt, whose story is about U.S. urges Serbia to withdraw troops from Kosovo border as tensions rise. Yeah, this is a complicated one, JK. This one goes back, woo! Holy smokes. 30 years? Yeah, I want to say it's 30 years. In fact, JK, if you are currently in the class, you might have seen reference to the start of this particular conflict, which is still quite active in the reality in parts of the Balkan Peninsula. And the reference I'm making here is, I want to say chapter 3. Is it chapter 3 in the book that's about the state of states and political systems and sovereignty? And so whether you're in the class now or a former student, you learned all about sovereignty in world regions. I hope you retain some of it. And the sovereignty examples that I thought were of particular note from the modern world were back in the 1990s when Bill Clinton, then U.S. president, and that must have been in 92, 93, 94, supported a strike upon this one Slobodan Milosevic, who basically had started some genocide / a civil war in Serbia as parts of Serbia were trying to pull away from it, namely, Montenegro, Kosovo. Montenegro eventually did pull away. And it's part of the larger fracturing of the former Yugoslavia that started in the late 80s into the early 90s. And during the multiple ethnic-based conflicts across the former Yugoslavia, Serbia was the group, and there's still an area now that's called just Serbia, but Serbia back in the day when it was part of Yugoslavia, Serbia was kind of the biggest ethnic group. They were the ones with most of the political power. So even though Yugoslavia was a state, a sovereign state in the modern sense, it had anywhere from 7 to 8 very distinct ethnic populations within it. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can just go look at what were those ethnic populations. Well, let's look up states of former Yugoslavia and see what we get. Here we go. How about a map? We love maps. So you can see, come on, full screen me on that sucker. Oh, well, guys can probably see it, right? Not great. Open image in new tab. Does that trick work? It did not work great. Yeah, I know. Zoom in. Zoom in. Okay. That's going to be good enough, I think, right? Use the old button there. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, now it's big. So Yugoslavia officially started disintegrating in 1991. And as you can see, different ethnic groups that were in there were Serbians, Croatians, Croats, Bosnians, Herzegovinians, Slovenians, Macedonians, Kosovonians. There's a lot going on here. It's one of the reasons why that kind of unrelated to the fall of the Soviet Union, because Yugoslavia was never part of the Soviet Union. But it had started to disintegrate in the mid to late 80s on its own because of ethnic tensions and strife, because the one dictator who ran Yugoslavia for most of its existence was one Marshal Tito. He ruled with an iron fist. So anytime that any ethnic group would get uppity, he would send in the army, mostly made of ethnic Serbs, to go crush any dissent or uprising that would happen. That's how the state got held together for so long. However, after he died, things started to get shaky quickly. Now, I'm only pulling this map up to impress the point that there was this singular sovereign state called Yugoslavia, and once all of this internal conflict / civil war / disintegration started occurring in 1991, it's formed into what you see today, which is multiple sovereign states that are recognized by everybody, by the way. 1, Slovenia. 2, Croatia. 3, Bosnia and Herzegovina, one of the most tenuous ones, by the way. 4, Montenegro. 5, Macedonia. And 6, Serbia. But as you can see on this map, we can zoom into Serbia. Just look at the thing called Serbia, and you see some dashed lines in there. And the dashed lines represent areas that may or may not want to split all the way off from even what's left of Serbia. So the Serbs were the dominant ethnic group. The Serbs have historical ties to Russia, by the way, and still have current political ties to Russia. Political, military, cultural ties, that is. And back to the story that you popped up. Not that one either. This one. U.S. urges Serbia to withdraw troops from Kosovo as border tensions rise. So what happened back in 1994, or 95 or 96, I can't remember the exact date, after most of these states had already pulled away and Yugoslavia kind of disappeared by 1991 or 92, Serbia, both Bosnia and Herzegovina and Serbia still actually had internal conflicts still brewing. I said a minute ago that Bosnia and Herzegovina is still the most tenuous of the former Yugoslavian states, because there are ethnic Bosnians in there and ethnic Herzegovinians in there, and there's also a split between Orthodox Christian and Islamic folks. Bosnia has long been a tinderbox for all this kind of ethnic violence to blow back up again. But lo and behold, that's not happening right this second. What is happening is ethnic Kosovars that are in the area, that little dashed line area you see in southern Serbia called Kosovo, they've actually been under a protectorate of NATO / the United States since the mid-90s. And this is what you might have learned in the sovereignty section of the State of States chapter. And that is back in after most of this had already happened, the guy named Slobodan Milosevic, who became kind of the president / dictator of Serbia, what was left, he started attacking ethnic Kosovars, or allowing attacks to happen. The Kosovars, by the way, are more ethnically aligned with Albanians, and they are religiously a Muslim. So they're a different group altogether. And what Slobodan Milosevic was being accused of back in the 90s was ethnic genocide, was using the Serbian army to persecute punish or have retributions against ethnic Kosovars, some of which was based on Kosovo saying, hey, we would like to be independent too. We're not Serbian. We don't really want to be part of Serbia. We want to go like Montenegro and Croatia and form our own country. And Slobodan Milosevic at that time said, no, we're not going to lose any more of our territory. So he fought hard against that. Vojvodnik up north, you see, is also slightly in this tenuous situation of perhaps being kind of separate, but I actually don't understand it because I think it's mostly ethnic Serbs too. So I don't understand the tension between Vojvodnik and Serbia, but I definitely understand it between Serbia and Kosovo. So when Slobodan Milosevic started allowing persecution of Kosovars back in the mid-90s, that's when, and by the way, there was all sorts of semi-small genocides and war crimes and slaughterhouses of all sorts of people across all of the former Yugoslavia during this whole chaotic 1990, 91, 92. So what was happening in Serbia wasn't even the first time this happened, but it was the first time it happened after the dust had settled from the collapse of Yugoslavia, and the world was watching this, and particularly folks in Europe and the United States said, hey, we're not cool with you guys committing genocide. And so we're giving you an ultimatum, which was immediately broken by Slobodan Milosevic because he didn't think anybody was going to do anything. And then the United States kind of led NATO into a bombing campaign against Serbia itself to protect this province called Kosovo. And now, hopefully, that's enough of the backstory that you understand the story. So what's been happening now? I'm talking about back in the 90s when all this stuff happened. What is happening now? Well, none of these tensions have ever gone away. And Kosovo, by the way, has been basically a protectorate of NATO for all this time. So I couldn't tell you the exact breakdown, but there might be U.S. troops there, and there certainly are NATO troops that have said to the Serbian government ever since Slobodan Milosevic was deposed from power, he's now dead, but said, no, we're kind of going to protect this until you guys can get your shit together and stop ethnically persecuting this group of Kosovars. Surprise, surprise, they never got their shit together. And as tensions have risen across Eastern Europe because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, now the Serbs, again, who are natural ethnic, religious, and linguistic allies of Russia, they've been getting more uppity, and you got to think this is part and parcel of Moscow's kind of grand plan. Moscow likes things to be disruptive. So ever since they've invaded Ukraine, which they thought they were going to roll over in 2 days and win and take over Ukraine, that didn't happen. Russia has mounted significant political intrigue in other parts of Eastern Europe to try to get more of their old allies to rejoin them. In one way or the other, Serbia is not in a position to actually help Russia in the Ukrainian war, but it's always good to have allies, and Serbia, in its current government, is a very staunch ally of Russia. So it makes sense to me, again, if you know history, it's no surprise that the Serbian government and certain radical elements within it are bringing or stoking the fires of ethnic nationalism in Serbia again, as they're watching what Russia's doing next door in Ukraine. This is almost, it could just be a good opportune time for Serbia to say, we're just going to lock down Kosovo permanently and never push out NATO troops or take enough command that they can never become independent. Because, by the way, this whole time, Kosovo has still been saying we would like to become independent. The reason that NATO is here protecting us is because we need protection, because as soon as you guys leave, the Serbian majority is going to come kick the crap out of us. And it looks like that's where this tension is rising from. So you have a pro-Kremlin, pro-Moscow, pro-Russia Serbian government, or at least elements within it, who have decided this is a good time to raise tensions again with their old adversary, the Kosovars. Now, again, I'm stressing certain elements of this story. NATO protectorate, a NATO protectorate. Who's helping Ukraine right now, by the way? NATO is helping Ukraine. NATO is helping Ukraine. NATO is helping Kosovo. So this is almost, and this is a stretch, by the way, friends. This is a stretch. This is just analysis and speculation. But I don't think it's much of a stress to understand that Russia's in there poking their Serb allies, saying, hey, why don't you go mess with the NATO troops down there, which helps further distract NATO from its helping Ukraine up here. Does that make sense? So, JK, does that help you understand what's going on? And let me pull up. I already saw down here, there is a map of this. Oh, look, a map, and a map you can read, I hope. So if you have any doubt of what's going on here, you see that Kosovo is, Serbia as a whole is majority ethnic Serb. Kosovo is majority ethnic Kosovar, and again, religiously Muslim, more tied ethnically to Albania. And this map is showing you small parts of Kosovo that are ethnically Serb. So Serbia can make a claim and an argument, and that's exactly what's happening, is that they're saying, hey, look, Kosovo is still officially part of sovereign state Serbia. That is true, as far as I know. And there are Serbian citizens of Serb ethnicity in this province, which is technically still part of Serbia. And those ethnic Serbs are getting picked on and beat up or otherwise harassed by the ethnic Kosovars and or NATO or whatever enemy that the Serbian government wants to pick. And so that's how you stoke up tensions and you get a good old-fashioned war to break out, is you say, whether it's true or not, my tribe is being picked on by the opposite tribe. And in this case, Serbia can say, our Serbian tribe is being picked on by the majority Kosovars in that little province, and we are going to flex our muscle as we are the actual owners of this territory in the sovereign state schemata. We have every right to go into this part of the world and beat up Kosovars or police them or send in the army to protect ethnic Serbs. Now, I said that with a lot of passion. Remember, when I'm talking about current events, I'm taking on the persona of the government or person that's making that argument. Do I, John Boyer, personally believe that lots of ethnic Serbs are getting beat up or killed by Kosovars? I don't think so. There's not a whole lot of evidence that that's happening. But what we can definitely see is rabble-rousing Serbs, most likely who don't live in Kosovo, that are coming across the border from Serbia proper, who are rebel-rousing, attacking police stations. That happened 2 weeks ago. Attacking border guards, starting protests, throwing rocks, whatever the hell else has been going on there, to stoke up and get some response from Kosovo or even perhaps from NATO. To get some sort of response that the Serbian government can then say, oh, look, there's this war breaking out. Now we have to send in the Serbian army to go quell this, which they're not going to do, by the way, because it's still a NATO protectorate. But does that help you understand what's going on here, JK? Let me know if you have another question about that, because it is complicated, but hopefully I just did the Boyer magic on you, and you kind of semi-understand a complicated situation. For those that are Serbian nationalists, you will disagree with my quick assessment, but I've seen this story before. Not this particular story, but humans are pretty predictable. And the more you look at history and the more you look at current events, there's really not that much that's surprising. We kind of replay the same things throughout history in different parts of the world. So this is kind of a classic situation to stoke up a war that people may or may not, the average Serb may or may not care about this. That I cannot speak to. The average Serb may say, I don't care, let Kosovo go. What difference does it make to me? I don't live there. But then again, maybe the average Serb is really pissed off about this. Maybe the average Serb carries a grudge that Kosovo is supposed to be part of their territory, but they don't really control it. Maybe the average Serb is really happy that Russia's trying to rebuild the empire, and maybe the average Serb wants Ukraine to lose. I can't answer any of those questions. I can only speak to what I've read about in the press, and even in pro-Russian news outlets, things are reported as, a bunch of ethnic Serbs were just walking down the street, and then police beat the shit out of them, and that's why they had to go protest. And again, when you become an old dog like me, you can read stories and kind of fairly quickly figure out which ones are just kind of propaganda. Nothing is simple in life, but when you say, our side is completely innocent, and a Serb was walking down the street and somebody shot him with a gun, and it was the Kosovars, you're like, okay, that's a bit oversimplistic. Was it a crime? Was he being mugged? And the reaction to these stories are over the top with violence. You're like, oh, wait a minute, okay. Let's step back from this violence. Who stands to gain here? Is this a political stunt? Is it a political message? Is it a show of support for another ally? And when I assess this, I'm looking at this saying, hey, look, ethnic violence happens all over planet Earth. Do I believe, from my knowledge of this situation, that ethnic Kosovars are going out of their way to beat up Serbs? I don't believe that. That one's a stretch. Kosovo wants their territory to be as quiet and calm as possible because they are still trying to become independent. And they want all the European countries and the U.S. to recognize them as a sovereign state, some of which you have, by the way, but not the wider world. So Kosovo has it in its interest to not be blowing up into another civil war / ethnic conflict. Serbia, on the other hand, does have some motivations to do that very thing. By the way, to defend Serbia, not the least of those motivations could be that, hey, Kosovo is technically a part of our state, and we should be able to go patrol it and do what we want to in it. Again, I'm not saying that's right, but I'm saying that is a motivation that makes sense to me from the Serbian perspective. The idea that Kosovo is starting this fight doesn't hold as much water just from a logistical and common sense perspective, which is how I usually try to sort through the news of the world. You can, no matter what story is happening in the world, friends, you will find somebody who's passionately on one side telling propaganda that's not true, and you will find someone who's equally as passionate on the other side who's telling crazy propaganda, that most of which is not true. The truth always lies somewhere in between, which is why you read a variety of news sources from lots of different places to try to get to the bottom of, okay, what actually happened here? And I can tell you, a police station in Kosovo was actively attacked with people with rocks and guns. That, to me, kind of settles who's the more aggressor here. It's not all equal. Things are happening for reasons. That's what we're always trying to decipher. But I've now ranted way too long, I think, about a story that's not simple, and it's 30 to 35 years in the making. I will restate for the last time. I predicted many moons ago that Bosnia was the place where such violence was going to raise its ugly head once more. And it's still, decades later, to me, still a simmering pot on the back burner of the stove, that if something were to break out in Kosovo or Serbia in general, if there was a greater outpouring of violence somewhere, you could see that become infectious to other parts of former Yugoslavia, namely Bosnia and Herzegovina. So this story is not done, and the reason why it's an important news story is there is a NATO presence there. It is in the interest of Team West to not be distracted by having to go save or help Kosovo more. It is in Russia's interest for more violence to flare up in this part of the world, or really anywhere. So this is why, even though this is a tiny little province in a country called Serbia that you don't think affects you or the United States or planet Earth on any way, shape, or form, it is a place that you could see another round of a semi-proxy war starting to crop up, at least through motivations of the U.S., NATO, and Russia on either sides of a pseudo-proxy war happening in this particular little province you've never even heard of. And it could spread. That's why it's important. Sorry for the long rant, but folks, that's what I do here. Let me catch up with the comments, if there are any other comments. Let's see. Only here for the Pladcast had the other one that caught my eye. How impactful to NATO is the pro-Russia win in Slovakia likely to be? Well, let's go tell everybody about that story. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Where do I see that at? Wow. Oh, wow. I'm really behind. Logan is home. Subscribed with Prime. Katie says I always have to tell to shout out everybody who is a subscriber, does me the little hearts. Because I do enjoy them, and thank you for doing them. But she just has to keep up with them because I'm always so far behind. Only here for the podcast says, how impactful to NATO is that pro-Russia win in Slovakia used to be? So let's catch everybody up. Hey, look what's right here in the New York Times and on NPR. Earlier today, the Slovakia, not to be confused with Slovenia, so let's go back at maps again. Okay, there's Slovenia, right? Slovenia is part of what was the former Yugoslavia. And now let's do Slovakia, which isn't that far away. Come on here, Google Maps, show me where Slovakia is. So here's Slovakia. And by the way, look right there. Oh, there's Slovenia. You just got to do a quick bike tour through Hungary to get from Slovakia to Slovenia. But Slovakia, as you probably have already also learned from class, Slovakia was part of a larger entity, just like Slovenia was. Slovakia and Czechia is what they're calling it now. We call it the Czech Republic. Czech Republic and Slovakia used to be Czechoslovakia. Now, why would I point that out directly after talking about this story in Serbia? Well, one, because Only Here for the Podcast asked me. But we're looking at the map because the reason why, one of many reasons why the Czech Republic and Slovakia split up after the fall of the Berlin Wall, after the fall of communism. It used to be one state, Czechoslovakia. It was a puppet state of Moscow. It was on the other side of the Iron Curtain. And the reason it's important to this particular story and what will help you understand this event is one of many reasons why Czech state and Slovakia split up is because they are two different ethnic groups. They were never, to my knowledge, there was never any hardcore hatred or wars between them, but this part of the world had more Czech people in it, and this part of the world had more Slovaks in it, okay? But more important than that, I see something called Hype Train coming with Velociraptors. What the hell is that? Am I the one that says that you'll have a limited time to earn exclusive emotes? Okay. Level 1 Hype Train. I have no idea what these things. Yeah, I just saw a bunch of stuff just happen. But let me finish my thought, and then I'll try to thank everybody for all the things they're doing, because I love you people. So the reason why this is important for understanding the modern world, and it's related to this Serb story, is that Slovakia did have more ethnic Russian people in it too. So ethnic Slovaks, but also ethnic Russians. And it was, and perhaps is going to be once more, a little bit more pro-Russia. Czech Republic was very much pro-West. The Czech Republic wanted to split off from Slovakia because it wanted to get in. It wanted to not purify itself in terms of genocide, but the Czech Republic 100% wanted to become part of Team West after communism collapsed in 1991. The Czech Republic wanted to become part of the EU. The Czech Republic wanted to be part of NATO. They applied for all these things as quick as they could. And in the early stages of this, in 1991, 92, it was still Czechoslovakia. And it became very apparent that there was resistance to joining Team West so quickly over on the Slovak side. Again, because there was more ethnic Russians there, and also they had more kind of ties back to Mother Russia. So they came to a decision, all of them did, we're going to split up the state. And the Czech Republic was like, great, we're now more 100% rah-rah Team West. And as a result of that, they did get into the EU very quickly, and they got into NATO very quickly. Now, Slovakia, as you might know the end of the story, also eventually became part of EU and also eventually became part of NATO. But that's part of the reason for the original divide. And now you understand the mindset of how one state wasn't as on board for Team West from out of the gate as the Czech Republic was. Now, what's that got to do with today's world? Well, that's a map of what's a modern map, but that's the story of how they came to pass. What just happened that's making people uneasy? What happened is that Slovakia just had an election, and I guess we can call him hard right. He certainly is more of a right wing. I wouldn't even call him center right. I think he's a rightist candidate. Slovakia is a democracy. They did vote for it, but I believe it's a parliamentary system. So he only won like 23% of the vote, but he was the guy that got the most votes. So, and now he has to form a coalition government, if you remember what I taught you about how parliamentary democracies work. So it's not as hardcore as it might sound immediately, only here for the Plaidcast, because it's a parliamentary system. They have to form a government with other political groups to even have it functioning. And not all the political groups are on board for what this guy is saying. So let me paraphrase or catch you up. This dude, and I don't even know his name because he just got elected, Robert Fico or Fico, the dude in the center there. He looks like a rugby player, or perhaps he runs one of Gordon Ramsay's kitchens. He has been saying, vote for me. I don't want to support Ukraine anymore. I don't want to send any more ammunition or money or guns to Ukraine. I think Ukraine should sue for peace with Russia immediately. And when I get elected, I'm not giving any more money to Ukraine to fight this war. And he just got elected. So that's why it's a big deal for Ukraine. And it's got lots of folks in Team West at unease, as the New York Times says it. Unease in the West, as Slovakia appears to set to join the Putin sympathizers. So, that's I won't call it an inflammatory headline, but it's an oversimplified headline. This guy does not have the power by himself to stop all funding to Ukraine, for starters. And what he actually was saying in the run-up, and now is saying as the new prime minister, is that we, Slovakia, are not going to send any more guns. We're not going to send any more bullets. In fact, one of his taglines for his election was not a single cartridge was his catchphrase. Like MAGA was Trump's catchphrase. This guy was not a single bullet or not a single cartridge. But he's talking about military stuff. So he's already starting to, not backpedal, but he's clarifying his position of, no, we'll send money for food. We'll send medical aid. But we don't want to send any more bullets and guns because they should sue for peace with Russia and have this over with. The other reason why it's not that particularly a big deal is, let's just be frank, Slovakia is not a military powerhouse. And Slovakia has likely already played out most of the guns and bullets it could afford to give to Ukraine already. So on the ground, this actually doesn't affect very much. Slovakia will continue to send food aid and medical aid and perhaps some other stuff. And they probably weren't sending many cartridges or bullets at this point anyway. And even if they were, they're a very small fish in a very big military pond. So they were never a major supplier of guns and cartridges. In fact, who even cares about the guns and cartridges? Ukraine wants jets. They want more drones. They want anti-missile technology. And Slovakia doesn't have any of that stuff. So it's on the ground, probably not going to change much. But we don't live just on the ground. We live in our heads, and we live in the global sphere where we think about these things and talk about these things. So it is a much bigger deal in that it seems to be rattling the unified Western support for Ukraine. That's what's going to take the hit. And the United States is not happy about this. The EU is not happy about this because Slovakia is an EU member and Slovakia is a NATO member. So it's feasible, although highly unlikely, it's feasible that Slovakia could rattle some cages at NATO and try to affect policy. Because if you've read about NATO already or seen my awesome NATO lectures, and they are awesome, right? Can I get a shout out about how awesome that NATO lecture was? Where I borrowed a ROTC student helmet. You know how NATO works. It's pretty much consensus of 100%. So it's feasible that Slovakia could try to affect policy. I just don't see it even happening at NATO. And if Slovakia were to come guns blazing into this, pun intended, if Slovakia were to come guns blazing into NATO and say, we disapprove, we refuse to allow any more NATO aid to ever go to Ukraine because we have veto power, which they don't call it veto power, but they could say, we don't agree with this, so all NATO military aid has to cease. I don't know that would happen. I think Slovakia might more likely get kicked out of NATO. Now, that's never happened. But if they were seriously to try to do that, I think the likely move would be like, okay, well, you're suspended. And good luck, by the way. Now that you've staked your claim as a pro-Putin state, maybe you should invite Russian troops in. What could go wrong? What could go wrong, Slovakia? Invite Russian troops back onto your soil. You can relive the Cold War. You can relive the whole 20th century with Russian troops on your soil. I don't know what the mood is in Slovakia with the common person on the street, but I can guarantee you most Slovaks do not want Russian soldiers back on their soil, even if the Russians are pretending like they really like Slovakia and want to be friends. No Eastern European country, besides Belarus, wants Russians back on their soil. They fought long and hard and were unhappy for most of the Cold War being puppet states of Moscow and the Soviet Union. None of those folks, I shouldn't say none, obviously Fico likes it. Most citizens of any ethnicity in any state in Eastern Europe would not welcome a reoccupation of Russian troops, even if it was on friendly terms. So this guy can rattle some cages. But NATO could say, and by the way, you're out. And good luck with Russia, who's currently trying to take back over Eastern European states, of which you are one, Slovakia. So NATO, if they felt like it, could apply some significant pressure. But the main story is, the United States, the EU, NATO, that is Team West countries, are slightly worried because also what's happening at the same time is, if you all have followed domestic news, is that the government shutdown that almost occurred in the United States and was just narrowly averted for at least a couple weeks or a month, I guess. Part of the reason for that shutdown, almost shutdown, was because the conservative Republican Party members in the House specifically said, we don't want to fund Ukraine anymore. Now do you get it? Now do you see why this is a bigger deal? So now the United States, who is the primary supporter and the primary provider of weapons to Ukraine, one of its political parties, and a small wing of it, has had the power to thwart a current spending bill, which was including money for Ukraine. And the next week, actually, no, it was 48 hours ago that whole thing just got cleared up in the United States. And 48 hours later, you've got a new Slovak prime minister who's also trying to stop getting armaments or support to Ukraine. Now do you see, there's a bigger picture going on here that folks, maybe rightly, are more worried about. Is the West, Team West? By the way, has the international press picked up on that? I've been saying Team West for at least 15 to 20 years. I'm assuming everybody has stolen that catchphrase from me by now. But Team West is now perhaps getting beleaguered. At least some components of Team West are getting war weary, are starting to say we're spending too much money. We shouldn't be spending money on this foreign war. We should be spending it on our own citizens, which is always a really good argument. I'm being serious. You can always make that argument. Hell, people back when I was a kid used to say, why are we spending money on the U.S. space program? It's stupid. We should feed poor people. And the answer is, well, you can stop all the programs, but we're still not going to feed all the poor people in our country. Our country doesn't like feeding for poor people. They're like, no, everybody's on their own. It's market capitalism. Every dog eat dog, every man for himself. So that's the bigger worry here, only here for the Plaidcast. What's the impact in NATO? Probably not much. What's the impact on the ground to the Ukrainian war effort? Probably not much. But it's another sign, or could be interpreted as another sign, of kind of the cracks in the united front facade that Team West has had, that has helped Ukraine literally on the ground, but helped morally, ethically, politically, support them and prop them up and keep them going in their fight against a aggressor state. And again, if you're Russian and you think that I'm just full of propaganda and everything's the Russians' fault, no, I don't think that. I think the Russians have had very good reasons for being worried about Ukraine joining NATO. But at the end of the day, all you got to do is say, well, who attacked who? And it was a Russian invasion. You can't say Russia didn't have any choice. Sure it did. We all have choices. And you can't say Russia had to do this, otherwise, ... something else would have happened. Okay, now you're talking about speculation in the future. The facts that we know for sure is that Russia perhaps was worried, perhaps thought something bad would happen in the future, perhaps thought they'd lose more power, perhaps they thought they were going to get invaded. But those are all perhapses. That did not happen. What we know did happen is Russia amassed 200,000 troops and invaded a foreign state and has been killing lots of the citizens of that foreign state. Those are facts. Doesn't matter your political persuasion or what you think my political persuasion are. Those are the facts. And so folks in Slovakia might want to consider those facts and not the speculation if they really think they want to go it their own way, be pro-Russian, and perhaps even not support a NATO endeavor, which might them get kicked out of NATO, which puts them squarely back in Moscow's orbit of, hey, let's just go take over. Maybe Slovakia would be way easier than finishing this war in Ukraine. Maybe we'll just start collecting up all the pro-Russian groups that they are certainly supporting. Again, that's not me speculating either. All great powers support any political group on planet Earth that supports them. So there are certainly pro-democracy movements in Slovakia and Ukraine, which the U.S. and Team West supported. And there are certainly pro-Russia, rejoin Russia groups in Ukraine and possibly Slovakia that Russia's going to support. And both entities and other big powers like China routinely mess with other people's elections. Please don't be fooled by this headline, oh, pro-Russian guy is now the undisputed leader of Slovakia. Nonsense. He only got 23% of the vote. That's hardly representative of Slovakia. And also know this, there was Russian money involved in this election. The Russians love messing with democratic elections because they know no one can mess with their democratic elections because they don't have democratic elections. They've got one dude who controls everything. So they know it's a soft point. Russia and China can always mess and poke and support political groups in democratic nations that those democratic nations simply don't have the ability to support in those countries. The best the U.S. and European countries can do is support NGOs in Russia or NGOs in China or pro-democracy political parties, which barely exist. But they can't do as much damage as China and Russia can do by funneling in tons of money into a small country and helping sway an election to help get people in power that will be more pro-China or more pro-Russia. And you're right, my friends, you just witnessed it. That was the greatest segue I just accidentally did to myself without knowing it. Let's go back to the news story, shall we? Because I saw this one, and I got to admit, I didn't even understand it. I was like, wow, what the hell is this about? Here it is. Music to Beijing's ears. Has China won the Maldives presidency? What the hell? I had no idea that the Maldives was even had an election right now. And I still don't know any of the players. So I am speaking from a point of ignorance. I'm reading this as you are reading this. Mohamed Muizzi's election win is a setback for India, a boost for China, and a sign of tensions in the Indian Ocean region, say analysts. And I am one of those analysts that say. Reading into the first paragraph, the Maldives, population of 500,000 people scattered across more than 1,000 islands. It is a very small country. It likely is a country that will not exist in the next 10 to 20 years due to global warming and the rise of sea level. But last weekend, the picturesque archipelago delivered an electoral verdict that has sent shock waves around the world. That's a bit of an overstatement. No one in the world really even knows where Maldives is, especially across the Indian Ocean region. The Mohamed Muizi, the opposition candidate, emerged victorious on a runoff, secured 54% of the vote. Okay, that's fine. Why is this such a big deal between China and India, though? Muizi, who backs closer ties between the Maldives and China, defeated the incumbent president, Mohamed Soli, who is widely perceived as pro-India. With today's results, says the new president, we have the opportunity to build the country's future. The vote transformed into a de facto referendum of the country's ties with India and China. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I saying I love it that the Maldives is now a subsidiary of China? No. I'm saying I love this story because it's showing you how politics work and what I was just talking about. That did Russia play a hand or at least support that pro-Russian candidate in Slovakia? They absolutely did. Did United States taxpayers' money probably end up in that same Slovak election to support a pro-democracy guy? I'm sure it did. And we have the same story in a different part of the world. China, which probably pulled out all the stops to get a pro-Chinese person as president of a very small country to basically eject out a pro-Indian president of said country. This is important because of China's Belt and Road Initiative. China's been building ties all across the world, particularly the Pacific and Indian Oceans, and across Eurasia, establishing what's called the Trade and Belt Initiative, a giant trade bloc centered on China. And China has spent billions, nay, trillions of dollars helping fund projects in small countries in particular, all across our Indian Ocean, all across Africa, all in Central Asia. Tons of projects to help bolster their own political and economic clout and to build strategic alliances and to also physically build stuff. Now, I am going off on a limb here. Here's a prediction. Why the hell would China give 2 shakes of ocean salt about a small group of islands in the Indian Ocean just off the coast of India? Oh, I think you just heard the answer in my question. Because China is building a formidable navy. And the typically pro-India Maldives has Indian troops on it, no Chinese troops. And that's about to change. And China must, this is a Boyer prediction, must already have designs on building a Chinese naval facility smack dab in the Indian Ocean to staff it with a bunch of Chinese soldiers with a bunch of Chinese ships. You just turned a soft power. Oh, dig this, my friends. China just turned soft power into almost immediate hard power. Soft power is the ability to influence, use money or friendship or politics to get a different country to do something maybe you want. That's soft power, influence power. And then getting this influence power in this one election in a very small country on planet Earth with less than 500,000 citizens, China's going to take that soft and get hard and going to build a big-ass military base, which will be worth billions of dollars to the Maldives and prop up their economy and form all sorts of trade and strategic military ties with China. That's a big deal, my friends. And that's how soft power turns to hard power and how it's related to what just happened in Slovakia, which is related to what just happened in Serbia. Boom! Mic dropped. Are we out for the night? By the way, the password is howdy. The password is howdy. Just email me the words howdy, Boyer, and you just earned 5 points of extra credit. You have 2 minutes. You have till 8:57 to email me howdy with your real name so that I can be sure to get you those extra credit points. My friends, I actually had no plans at all for today's online office hour. I had nothing. I had only just briefly perused the news, and this has turned into a walloping good time of events happening around the world that I hope I just connected a bunch of dots for you. And now that I just did that with 3 different stories from 3 different parts of the world, well, 2, I guess, 2 in Eastern Europe, 1 in the Indian Ocean. Let me now finally get back to fielding all your comments and thanking you all, which is appropriate. I know I'm probably 16,000 pages behind, but I'll do my best. Let's see. Mary Handy liked to film. Oh, we're way back with Sin Nombre. First time chatter. Thank you for first time chatting from It's Dylan TG. You're welcome for the ad revenue. Thanks, It's Dylan, but I don't even know how you get ad revenue from these things. I don't know where it goes. I don't think we've ever gotten anything. We just really like Twitch. But we do need to get more prizes or some shit, right? We should have some sort of prizes like physically in town. If you're in town, you get a Plaid Avenger head sticker or a Plaid Avenger pint glass. Let's just start doing that. If you like subscribe or something. Because I don't know what subscription gets you. I think the Plaid Avenger Putin head's all you get right now on here. And we don't have ads. Yeah, we don't.
If you subscribe, you don't.
Oh, I see. So if you subscribe, somebody else gets money instead of the ad people who get money. But if anybody wants to subscribe, I'll start giving you a Plaid Avenger pint glass and a Plaid Avenger head sticker if you know what that is. If not, remind me. I'll bring it next online office hours. Let's see. Sean says, are we getting more international films? I've really enjoyed the one so far, but I missed a couple. Yep, you'll get a film every week for the rest of the semester. Lisita says, hello from Seattle. Oh, my God. Hey, Lisa, what's going on from Seattle? I assume you're a Hokie, maybe? Were you there when I visited the Seattle Hokie chapter a few years ago at Pyramid Brewing? That was a very good time. And you guys should invite me back out so I can come back out and party some more with you. Let's see. Lisita's got the Putin heads going crazy there. JK chimes in on 3 stories ago regarding NATO forces in Kosovo. There are currently around 4,500 NATO-led Kosovar Force, KFOR, personnel stationed in the country. Thank you for looking that up, JK. And that's why Serbia proper is not going to invade Kosovo. Again, could you even call it an invasion, because Kosovo is still technically part of their country. But Serbia is certainly not trying to get bombed again, because remember, when Serbia, or the leaders of Serbia, were persecuting Kosovars back in the mid-90s, is when they got the shit bombed out of them by Bill Clinton and NATO forces. I don't think they're ready to replay that just yet, but they are going to rabble-rouse and cause some trouble. But Serbia does not want to directly fire upon or shoot or kill any of the 4,500 NATO-led Kosovar force on the off chance there's an actual NATO person amongst those troops that would get killed. That would be an international incident. That would get a response that Serbia does not want. A military one, I mean. And JK thanks me. That was great. Thank you, JK, for bringing that story up. Psy Guy up in the Hizzle saying, yo, what is good, everyone? What did I miss? Also self-advertising, working together. Thank you, Psy Guy. You always plug that, and I'm glad you do. And howdy, Psy Guy. And Lisito's giving shout-outs with, the high and a finger. That's what I was trying. I had to figure out what that glove was. It's like a Mickey Mouse glove, right? It's only 4 fingers. Let's see. Logan is home subscribed. We thank you again. Logan is home for subscribing with Prime. It's Dylan TG says Prime. Lisa gives a shout out back. Big Double G Jet subscribed at tier 1. Again, I don't even know what subscribing means. What's just tier 1? Big Jet's a tier up. Or is it the top tier? Or is it one more tier before you get to the top? I don't know, but thank you so much, Big Jet. Lisita says 100 hellos. An anonymous gifter is gifting 1 tier, 1 sub to Plaid Avengers community. An anonymous gifter gave Cold Cut Cornbread, I know Cold Cut Cornbread, a tier 1 subscription. Who's doing all these things? Who are these anonymous people that we have to thank? Lisa Lisita, is she the one that's giving all this stuff away? Thank you, Lisa Lisita. JK Wiat says, I had a few German friends who expressed a lot of recent disdain for Hungary's government due to Hungary blocking some EU support for Ukraine. Do you see the EU doing anything about letting a super minority or 2 with Poland block the efforts of greater EU direction? Yes, JK, I actually should have brought that up as well, and it probably was mixed into one of those stories I panned through. But another reason the new Slovakia prime minister's pro-Russia stance is worrying is because Viktor Orban, Orban, who's been the prime minister of Hungary for like 8 years now, I won't say he's pro-Russia, but he's Russia-friendly. Let's call it that. So Hungary has been led by a political group that has increasingly been moving to the right. Some would say extreme right. I think it's early to call it extreme. Some people call him a semi-dictator. I think that's also being a little extreme. He does have popular support. And is that thunder? Is that thunder or is that a jet outside? You guys hearing this anywhere else in Blacksburg? Viktor Orban of Hungary has led his country down a rightward path, not to dictatorship yet, but taking away a lot of civil liberties and, again, more Russia-friendly, and the Orban government, and very anti-immigrant. Oh, it's fireworks. Yeah, fireworks. What did we win? Is it 4th of July already? So Orban has led his government and his country in a not so liberal democratic way, back towards the more dictatorial right, but not there yet. And he has thrown up many hindrances and said that he does not want to support the Ukrainian endeavor either, that they should just basically sue for peace with Russia. So he was already doing that. But here's the thing, JK, the EU ain't NATO. And the EU ain't the Permanent Security Council either. And when you sign up to be part of the EU, you're one of many. No EU country has veto power. So there's only so much they can do. And as a country, they can say, we refuse to give this money to, if it goes towards bullets for Ukraine. But I don't know that they have the power to even actually do that, because the EU can just be like, well, you've already paid your dues for the year, and we're giving them bullets whether you want to or not. And if you really want to push it, then the EU, other member states have the ability to penalize Slovakia or Hungary in economic ways. So there's no veto power. There's no fear that Slovakia or Hungary is going to stop a mostly united EU from playing its part as the greater Team West to help Ukraine during this Russian invasion. But thank you for asking that, bringing that back up, because I forgot that Hungary's Viktor Orban immediately phoned new Prime Minister Fico of Slovakia and congratulated him and said, oh, we're going to win across the board. And by the way, JK also points out that Poland may be swinging towards the right as well. Poland is pretty conservative, but here's the difference between Poland and the other two, JK. Poland really does not want Russia to become powerful again. Poland really does not want Russian troops on their shoulders, on their shores, or on their in their borders. Poland has a lot of bad experience with Russian animosity, Russian soldiers, Russian culture. Poland is not going to go down that path. So Poland may be more conservative about supporting the Ukrainian cause, but when the rubber hits the road, Poland will be first in line saying, no, we're here to help push back against Russian animosity or Russian expansionism. Poland does not want to see an emboldened Russia in Eastern Europe. So that's more, even though Poland may go back towards the right even a little bit more, and they've been swinging pretty conservative right recently, and tracking back on civil liberties and a few other things. When it comes to the Russia issue, Poland will be of one mind. Again, when things get serious, they're not going to not help Ukraine when it comes down to it. Is Blue Subaru says the NATO lecture was awesome. Well, thank you, Blue Subaru. Adita also liked. And here, this is what it says to me now. I have to read this to you all. It says, only visible to you, you received a level 1 hype train emote. So does that make sense to you? I don't know what these things mean. You all might as well be speaking Greek to me, but at least I know a couple of Greek words like panna cotta. No, baklava. Big Jet's got this awesome, almost orange Kermit the Frog logo there, or emoji. I like that. Is Blue Subaru says, Oh, well, it's already too late. Oh, it's howdy. Just email me howdy. Well, here's the thing. I know a lot of folks don't listen to this at all, and they come in exactly at 9 o'clock. So if you're just hearing me say this for the first time, you're not going to get the full 5 points because you probably just tuned in because you know this is about the time that I give you the password. Okay, then just email me howdy. Is Blue Subaru thoughts on Tupac's suspected murder being arrested a few days ago? No, I actually don't have any thoughts. I never followed the criminal investigation. I have no idea what's going on with Tupac and the investigation into his murder. But hopefully justice will be served. I'm a big fan of that. That's the only thought I have. Blue Subaru's words were the password, baby. That is correct. Back to JK, who says, though it sounds bad for U.S. taxpayer money to be in play in international elections, you could definitely argue that it is in the U.S. interest to promote democracy, pro-West people into power. Oh, absolutely. That's what, again, I try to be even-handed in my treatment of international politics. So when we say things like, or when I point out things like, oh, China just bought off an election in the Maldives so it can expand its power. I don't know how much they bought them off. I'm speaking in general. One must assume there was Chinese money in that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how sovereign states work. There's no international law that says you can't try to influence allies or even enemies to your frame of thinking. Things that are in your strategic interest. So when you hear me call out Russia interfering in other elections, or China, which just perhaps interfered in an election in Maldives, I'm more than willing to admit the United States and pro-democracy groups and countries around the world also funnel money into national elections that aren't their own in order to affect the outcome. China does it mostly 100% self-serving. I actually almost respect that. China's like, no, we're only going to try to influence elections that get us something almost directly, physically in the modern world, that we gain an ally, or that we get a strategic new port, or that we get permission to build a railroad across the country, or mineral rights to mine in a Central Asian state. They're pretty, no, we're going to try to influence you because we want something. Whereas Russia is much more about, we're going to try to influence you because it's disruption and we like chaos. And we want our enemies, and Russia does consider Team West a true enemy. I don't know that anybody considers China a true enemy. The U.S. considers China its greatest superpower rival, but I don't know that anybody in the U.S. government thinks that China's the enemy, that they're evil. But Russia, the current government of Russia, and certainly Vladimir Putin, he definitely sees things in black and white. The West is our enemy, our mortal enemy. So we don't even want anything. We just want to interrupt an election or make democracy look bad because it makes us better. And you're like, okay, well, that's their prerogative. They got some extra capital to throw around. Go interfere in an election. But make no bones about it, the U.S. does it too. Israel does it too. South Africa does it too. Brazil does it too. Everybody wants to get what they want. Everybody wants what they want when they want it. And countries will spend money to promote things in other parts of the world that benefit them directly or indirectly. Tercity's asking for the code. I hear it too. Oh, fireworks. There you go. Thought it was fireworks. Ton of fireworks going off. From Rodbato, Tercity, PSI Whirlwind, Akina, Psy Guy. See, it wasn't just me. I'm just not a crazy old man who's losing it. Something was blowing up out there. I thought it was thunder. I just heard. Olivia W. says they did have the drill field taped off earlier. Thus the source of the fireworks. Ooh, so you know I'm within earshot of the drill field, but you still don't know what secret lair that I inhabit. PSI Whirlwind says I saw some cadets get fireworks ready earlier walking to class. Tercity says Plaid Avenger, Plaid Katie, I couldn't hear the code, got it. Code. Lisa Lisita says lobbyist. Yes, we call those folks lobbyists. I've actually never heard of them referred to as lobbyists when you're doing it in someone else's election. Lobbyists are people that try to influence the government that they're in, but sure, there's international lobbyists as well. And Turd Maestro has made his appearance just as I was getting ready to disappear. So hello, Turd Maestro, and goodbye, Turd Maestro. And thank you all. This has been a rousing rendition of the online office hour. I sometimes regret that I don't have a presentation already ready for you, but my friends, I'm telling you straight up, I couldn't have prepared to talk as good as what just unfolded based on your questions and our perusing of the internet. I certainly hope you learned a little something today. I hope you understand the current events that are happening around us and how they're all tied to the past and to the future, and that you had a good time while we did it. But that's all I've got for this edition of the Monday Night Online Live Office Hour for World Regions. I love all you good folks. Oh, and Katie, do you want to try to do a raid? Because I'm signing off. We'll try to raid, but we got to have the raids ready. Does anybody want to raid? Oh, first time chatter from Bedburst. Thank you. See ya. Thank you, Bedburst. Thank you for your first time chatter. Do you want to try to raid, or do you just want to try to plan it again for next time? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up unless somebody has a raid they want to do right literally this second. But I thank you all so much. I really had a good time tonight. I actually have a good time every night. I have a great time with this class. It's my favorite online class to interact with. By the way, give me a shout out or via email or in the chat room right now. Because this group has been so awesome online, what do you all think about me doing a live lecture somewhere on campus? And I'll just do straight up the same thing we do here, or I'll prepare a short presentation about a current event, but do it live, like Lee McBride 100, my old home. Would anybody like to do that, or do you just want to keep it online live? Mull that over, think about it, respond to me, respond to email. Otherwise, you all have a great Monday night. Have a great week in class for World Regional Geography and all your courses. And as always, party on.